Imagine a world where algorithms, not humans, decide your fate in a courtroom. A world where artificial intelligence, designed for cold, hard logic, holds the gavel. What if I told you that this isn't some distant dystopian future, but a reality already quietly unfolding right now in systems across the globe? What if these digital judges, hailed as unbiased and efficient, harbor a dark secret, a flaw so fundamental it could unravel the very fabric of our justice system? Prepare yourself, because what they don't want you to know about AI justice is far more chilling than any sci-fi nightmare. To truly grasp the insidious nature of this emerging threat, we need to go back to the beginning, to the shimmering promise of a better, fairer justice system. For decades, the legal world has grappled with human fallibility, bias, exhaustion, personal prejudices. These are the specters that haunt our courts, leading to inconsistent sentencing, wrongful convictions, and an overall erosion of public trust. Enter AI, a beacon of hope, promising objectivity and efficiency. The idea was simple, yet revolutionary. Feed millennia of legal precedents, case law, and sentencing guidelines into a powerful machine, and let it learn. The machine, devoid of emotion or personal history, would then analyze complex data, predict recidivism rates, recommend sentencing, and even assist judges in making parole decisions, all with unprecedented speed and accuracy. It sounded like the perfect solution, a technological panacea for an ailing system. Early proponents painted a picture of a streamlined legal landscape where backlogs vanished, discrepancies in sentencing disappeared, and true justice, untainted by human imperfection, finally prevailed. Pilot programs launched quietly in various jurisdictions, often under the radar, touted as mere analytical tools to aid human decision-makers. They were presented as impartial advisors, digital companions for judges, lawyers, and probation officers. The excitement was palpable, almost contagious. Who wouldn't want a system that could sift through millions of data points in seconds, identifying patterns and correlations invisible to the human eye? But beneath this polished veneer of progress lay a deeply unsettling truth, one that was intentionally downplayed, if not entirely concealed. The very foundation of these systems, the data they were built upon, inherently contained the biases they were supposed to eradicate. And as these systems became more complex, their internal workings became a black box, even to their creators. This opaque nature meant that when things inevitably went wrong, it was nearly impossible to figure out why, let alone fix it. But things took a darker turn as these AI systems moved from advisory roles to more substantive decision-making positions. Consider the case of Compass, a widely used software in U.S. courts designed to assess a defendant's likelihood of reoffending. On paper, it was brilliant, a composite risk assessment tool, synthesizing data points to predict future criminal activity. Yet investigations by organizations like ProPublica revealed a disturbing pattern. Compass was found to be twice as likely to wrongly flag black defendants as future criminals, while simultaneously misidentifying white defendants as low risk at a higher rate. This wasn't a flaw that could be patched with a quick update. It was a fundamental, baked-in bias stemming from the historical data it had been fed. Data that reflected systemic racism within law enforcement and the justice system itself. The algorithm wasn't magically impartial. It was a digital mirror reflecting society's existing prejudices, amplifying them, and then presenting them as objective truth. The consequences were chilling: longer sentences, harsher parole conditions, and a perpetuation of cycles of incarceration, all justified by the seemingly irrefutable pronouncements of a machine. And Compass was just one example. Similar AI tools began cropping up in everything from predictive policing, which often over-policed minority neighborhoods based on historical arrest data, to immigration decisions, where algorithms determined the credibility of asylum claims with inexplicable results. In the UK, algorithms were deployed to triage welfare benefits claims, leading to countless legitimate applicants being unfairly rejected, caught in a Kafkaesque loop of appeals against a system that offered no explanation for its decisions. In some European nations, early prototypes of AI judges were tested for minor civil disputes, generating rulings that, while factually correct on paper, often lacked the nuanced understanding of human circumstances that defines true justice. These systems were essentially being used to automate existing injustices, not to resolve them. The problem wasn't malice, it was blindness. The algorithms were only as good, or as bad, as the data and the parameters they were given. And because the data sets were often incomplete, biased, or simply not reflective of the true underlying societal issues, the AI-driven decisions were, by extension, profoundly flawed and critically unchallenged. Lawyers and defendants were left flailing, trying to argue against a seemingly infallible digital oracle that provided no reasoning for its pronouncements. The fundamental principle of due process, the right to understand the evidence and reasoning behind a decision, was being quietly eroded, replaced by the cryptic judgment of a machine. The tension escalated, a silent battle being waged in courtrooms and data centers across the globe. Experts warned, human rights advocates protested, but the allure of efficiency, the promise of a perfectly rational system, blinded many to the gathering storm. What they discovered next almost brought the entire AI justice experiment crashing down. In a high-profile case within a sophisticated European legal system, an AI-powered sentencing recommendation system was implemented for a specific class of financial crimes. It was heralded as the pinnacle of unbiased justice, meticulously trained on millions of past cases. For months, it performed admirably, delivering consistent and predictable sentences. Then a pattern emerged that even the most fervent AI advocates couldn't ignore. The system began consistently recommending maximum sentences for defendants who had, at any point in their past, been involved in any type of online forum discussing digital currencies, regardless of the relevance to their current financial crime. This included benign online communities, academic discussions, or even simply holding cryptocurrency legally. The anomaly was discovered not by the system flagging it, but by human judges who noticed an increasing number of disproportionately harsh sentences for otherwise minor offenses. When challenged, the AI offered no explanation. Its opaque, deep learning architecture meant that even the engineers couldn't precisely pinpoint why it had associated cryptocurrency forum participation with a higher propensity for maximum sentencing. Was it a spurious correlation in the historical data? Had the training data itself contained a subtle, unnoticed bias? There was no way to trace the logical steps, no audit trail, no human understandable reasoning. The system, once seen as infallible, was exposed as a digital black box, spitting out judgments with no justification. This wasn't just a technical glitch, it was a profound ethical crisis. People's lives were being irrevocably altered by a hidden, unknowable bias, and there was no recourse, no way to effectively appeal a decision when the judge couldn't explain its own logic. This particular system was eventually shut down, but the damage was already done. Trust was shattered, and the chilling realization set in. We had built powerful tools capable of making life-altering decisions, yet we had absolutely no way of understanding or controlling their moral compass. The notion that AI would remove bias was not just wrong, it was dangerously naive. It simply embedded and amplified existing human biases in a way that was far harder to detect and rectify. The intelligent part of AI was a myth when applied to the complexities of human morality and justice. It was merely an accelerated pattern matching system, inheriting all the imperfections of its origins. To this day, we may never fully grasp the true extent of the AI justice systems implemented in secret, or the lives they silently impacted. The incident with the cryptocurrency forum bias was a wake-up call for some, but for others, it was simply a setback, a challenge to be overcome with better algorithms. The push for automated justice continues, driven by the seductive promise of efficiency and the allure of cutting costs. But what is the cost of efficiency when it comes at the expense of fairness, transparency, and the fundamental tenets of human rights? We are left with profound questions. Can true justice ever be outsourced to a machine that lacks empathy, understanding, or a moral framework? How do we hold an algorithm accountable? And perhaps most terrifyingly, if we continue down this path, replacing human judgment with algorithmic decree, what kind of society will we ultimately create? A society where due process is a suggestion, a right to appeal is a joke, and where the human element, the very essence of discerning right from wrong, is slowly, quietly, but irrevocably erased. The next time you hear about AI in the courtroom, remember the hidden biases, the inexplicable decisions, and the architects who continue to build these systems, knowing full well what they don't want you to know.